I'm the middle sibling of 3. I have 2 brothers. They both grew up as scouts. My older brother made it to Eagle Scout. My little brother quit some time in Boy Scouts. But for whatever reason, my parents never forced me to become a scout when I was a kid. Which is weird, because I remember always being really jealous of my older brother Scott when my mom would bring me along to the Pinewood Derby contests and celebrations and such. But the thing that I was always the most jealous that I missed out on were the campouts. When the troops would go out into the wilderness and camp out for a whole weekend, I went along for the drive once or twice, and I saw them all setting up, doing campfires and such. But being younger and also not part of the troop, I don't think I was allowed to stay, so I'd go home with my parents. My jealousy of these campouts was mainly towards my older brother because I was growing up watching him prepare for these camping trips. Before every trip, he'd be given a tent to take home and practice setting up in the backyard. Even though I was only like 7 or 8, I remember so clearly how eager I was when I hatched the idea to do a little backyard camping. Basically, we set up the tent in the backyard and sleep in it overnight. To my little mind, that was the most exciting idea ever. Also, our backyard wasn't really a traditional backyard. Our childhood house was in a very spacious neighborhood where yards just kind of all meshed together and there weren't many fences, more so large patches of trees and brush separating yards, which added to the camping feel. Our backyard was also huge, and we had a fire pit, so our parents played along and set up the fire pit in our backyard for us so we could get the full camping experience. My little brother roasted marshmallows with us too, but our parents weren't going to let him sleep in the tent. He was only like 4 at the time, and it wasn't a good idea. And no, he wasn't a scout yet, obviously, he was 4. After it got a little late, our parents brought him in and told us it was time to start getting ready for sleep. At this time in my life, the Game Boy SP was the handheld console. So after getting into our sleeping bags, Scott and I whipped out our Game Boys and played our respective games. I was playing Super Mario Bros. 2, a game I was obsessed with yet could never beat as a child. After getting a little more tired though, I turned to my side and tried to sleep. But I remember not being able to sleep. Like, I was tired, but restless. Maybe because I'd never slept in a sleeping bag before, and quite frankly, it wasn't comfortable. A lot of time passed, and I mean a lot, before I finally nodded off. And then, I woke up probably confused about where I was at first, not recognizing my surroundings. I remember looking around the dark tent, and then noticing something. Scott was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. The tent zipper was closed though. He must have went inside because he couldn't sleep. I was suddenly too scared to be in the tent alone, so I got up and unzipped the tent. But before crawling out, I did a little innocent peek outside simply because I was too scared to run out through the backyard without checking if the coast was clear. But it was not. I saw someone sitting by the fire pit in the darkness. It wasn't Scott. It was a grown man. He was facing the tent, and surely he had to have seen me. I gasped and zipped the tent back up and crawled back into my sleeping bag, as if that piece of cloth was any form of protection. I stayed completely still inside my sleeping bag. The tent was almost completely dark, just a faint gray from the moonlight coming through the fabric. I don't know what was going through my mind at that point, but I do know that I wanted to call out Dad, just hoping that it was my dad, but I knew it wasn't. I got a look at the man, even just briefly, and if it were my dad, he'd have acknowledged me poking my head out of the tent. And that's when I heard the chair by the fire pit shift. I was shitting bricks, hoping the man didn't get up, and if he did, that he wasn't coming towards the tent. But I could see a shadow now on the other side of the tent blocking some of the moonlight. He was right outside. Somehow, I thought if I didn't move, maybe he would think the tent was empty. Then I heard the zipper, very slowly dragging downward. It only moved a few inches. The opening was small, but it was enough. I couldn't help it. I turned my head just slightly. There's a small gap at the bottom of most tents where the zipper doesn't fully seal. I had never noticed it before that night. An eye was pressed against that gap, just one eye, looking directly at me. I could see the white of it in the dark. I couldn't even scream at first, not for a few seconds at least, because I was paralyzed. Then the eyes squinted a bit, as if the person was smiling a smile that I couldn't see. The zipper moved another inch, and that's when I finally screamed. I scrambled backwards, kicking out of my sleeping bag, knocking into the tent poles. I heard footsteps immediately take off through the yard. Our back porch light flipped on, which I could see through the tent fabric. My dad burst out the back door yelling. I could hear him running across the grass. By the time he reached the fire pit area, whoever it was already gone. My parents called the police, of course. I don't remember what happened after my parents talked to the cops. I know I went to my parents' room with my mom, and eventually the police did their thing, likely searching the immediate area. It was an absolute nightmare. I slept in my parents' bed that night. I was emotionally scarred for a while. Just as things might have been going back to normal, I think it was a few weeks to a month later. This part is what really hammers the nail in the coffin for this experience being something I can never forget. I went to Catholic school, and during lunch we'd have a short recess in the schoolyard, which was all concrete. The far end of the schoolyard was fenced off and looked towards the street. We were playing some game, maybe red light, green light or something. This part I genuinely don't remember. All I know is I had to run to the fence to be considered safe from whatever the threat in the game was. And while I was on the fence, next to some other kids mind you, a man says hey from the other side of the fence. I turn, and it's a man asking me for directions to some place I don't even remember. I said I don't know. We weren't even supposed to talk to strangers outside of the schoolyard. Then he said, "Your name's Chris, right?" And that moment is implanted in my brain. His voice, the look on his face, and my heart dropping. I said no, lying to him. He then smiled and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And at this point, I ran towards one of the recess chaperones and pointed over at the fence, but the man was gone. One of the kids next to me told me he saw the man too. The recess ladies called the recess in short, and the school called my parents. I was sure it was that man from the backyard. I was taken home early that day. I know my parents were so sick and worried after this. It was a hellish month. We lived in such a nice area too, and to almost be chased out of the neighborhood because of this was just a nightmare. After months of me being under tight supervision from my parents, things went back to normal. I can't express enough, though, how much it still pains me in my chest, thinking about how I could be dead today if that man had somehow successfully taken me. And it makes me sick, wondering if he was ever successful in whatever he was trying to do with someone else. I grew up in Salem, Oregon, a quaint little small-town feeling place. I moved out when I was 21, buying my first house about 50 miles out from Salem. I furnished my first house with a mix of stuff for my parents, their friends, and a bunch of stuff off online marketplaces and apps. I was driving a Ford Raptor at the time, so lugging stuff around was thankfully very easy. On Facebook Marketplace one day, I found a listing selling a bunch of good-looking stuff. The ones in the listing that caught my eye were this cream-colored sectional couch that looked pristine and this Cannondale brand mountain bike. I didn't have a bike at the time, and where my house is, having one is perfect for exercise. The other stuff on the listing didn't really interest me. The listing itself was just sort of a digital yard sale. I contacted the seller and we did a little typical back and forth. He was pretty short and straight to the point with his answers, and surprisingly easy to negotiate. He agreed to a slightly lower price, and he said I could come pick the stuff up later that night. Days are long in Oregon in the summer, so I'd still be showing up with some sunlight. I banked on having to do a couple trips to transport the sectional couch due to its size. I set out on my way to the house. The address was right on the coast. I checked the satellite view on the map just to confirm it was bringing me to a house, and it was. Based on the map, there was a long trail or driveway that veered off the road towards a huge open property with a big-looking house, and then in the backyard was a literal drop-off to the ocean. All I could think was, no wonder these people were selling all this stuff for so cheap. With that kind of money, I wondered why they weren't just giving it away. I headed out that way, and it didn't take long to get there. I could tell the closer I got to the shore, the nicer the properties got. and then I turned onto the last road before I'd be turning onto the driveway for the house. This road was long. It was lined with woods on each side, and then I'd pass the occasional driveway leading to probably a cliffside mansion. Eventually, I made it to the turnoff. It was a tree-lined dirt road, or the driveway, I guess you would call it. About 10 seconds in of driving down this driveway, it opened to this massive clearing. The driveway went on a slight incline leading to the house at the top of this hill. I pulled up next to this older sedan. It was like a Mercury Sable or something. It did not match the house at all. Like this house looked like it belonged to a millionaire, and this car was a piece of shit. I went up to the front door ready to ring the bell, but there was a yellow post-it note on the front door, and it said on it, "Doorbell broken, please use back door." Weird, because I could have just knocked, but I obeyed. As I walked down the front porch, I messaged the guy on Messenger that I arrived and was going around back. I walked around the side of the house, looking at each window as I passed, but the blinds all seemed to be closed. I got to the backyard, and it was crazy. It actually overlooked the Pacific Ocean. I walked up the back deck to go knock on the back door. It was a sliding glass door, but there was some kind of sliding blind that was closed, so I couldn't see inside. I knocked on the glass. I stood there for a minute, then knocked again. I looked down at my phone to see if he answered or read my message. Neither. I went to go sit on one of the chairs on the deck and spun it around to stare at the sunset and the view of the Pacific. It was a surreal view. I kept checking my Messenger app and following up with the guy, but he wasn't answering. I triple-checked that I had the right address, and I did. Plus, the note on the front door confirmed that. I decided if he was in the shower or occupied or something, I'd at least go walk over to the cliffside and get a picture of the view. I did just that. I walked down the deck, then down the seemingly freshly cut grass to the cliffside. Taking in the view, I daydreamed about one day being able to afford a place like this. I started walking back up to the house, but stopped maybe 3 steps in when I realized every single window now had their blinds open and there was a person standing at each window, standing as still as statues. I didn't know if what I was looking at was some kind of prank or not. I walked a little closer, and the moment I said, "Nope, I've seen enough," was when I realized every single face was smiling. I honestly couldn't tell if they were mannequins or not. That's how still they were. I decided I just needed to get to the car. I did a light jog around the side of the house again, and that side window that I mentioned that also had its blind shut before was now too lifted, and there was someone at this window as well. I didn't know what was going on here, but I had to get out. As I got to the front, I got back in my car, and I didn't even look at the front windows. I didn't even want to know if there were people at these windows too. I reversed all the way down the driveway, and regrettably, I did at one point take a curious look ahead at the house. The front door was open, and there was a person standing on the front porch with his hands in his pockets, watching me drive away. It didn't matter. Everything about this was a red flag. I was out of there in a minute and down the road. The guy never opened or responded to my message still. I decided to turn into the closest neighbor's house driveway and knock on the door. They answered, and I explained the bizarre and disturbing situation I just encountered, and I pressed them about any info on their neighbor. The man who answered, who I'll call Tom, was shocked, because he's close friends with the guy next door, and he said he's hardly ever in town, and that he wouldn't set up some kind of elaborate prank like that. He called his neighbor on the spot, and the guy picked up. Basically, the conversation went as follows from what I remember. "Hey Jim, it's Tom next door. Listen, I got someone at my front door right now saying you invited him to your house to buy stuff, but you pulled some kind of scary prank on him with the windows and stuff." And there was a pause before the Tom guy said, "What are you talking about?" From here, I stepped in and explained everything from the Facebook ad to my arrival there to the people at the windows. He now sounded very concerned because he said he wasn't home this week. I did my best to describe every detail, including what the man on the front porch looked like, as well as the sketchy car. He asked me to take his number so he could contact me after the police investigated. After that, I left. I went home. I really didn't have it in me to commit 2 hours to some police investigation that didn't concern me, truth be told. But I did hear from the guy later that night. He called me and asked me to send him the Facebook listing, but it was removed. I did send him the details of the profile that I was messaging on the Messenger app, but it was now a blank profile. He thanked me for that and would give it to the police anyway. When I asked him what the cops found, he told me they found nothing stolen as far as he knew at that time, and that all the blinds were once again closed, and there was no sedan in the driveway, but that all 3 doors in the house were unlocked. Now the scary part for me is the way they were all standing at the windows smiling, trying to scare me, and I have to wonder, what use was I going to be of to them, and why did they want me in the backyard? Scary thoughts, honestly. I'm just glad I left when I did. I live with my parents in Murraysville, Pennsylvania. My parents were gone one weekend, so I decided I was going to have a bunch of people over in the backyard for a mini pool party. We have a pool house and an in-ground pool back there. It's perfect for parties, even though I rarely get a chance to throw anything. The rest of the backyard is a little bit of grass and then the woods behind the pool house. It's a very private backyard. Usually, you'll see what I mean soon. So the little party I planned was for Saturday night. Earlier that day, I was setting up outside. It was a little cloudy out, but since it was going to be a night party, that didn't really matter. The woods behind the pool house are pretty big. They go at least half a mile back before they reach another backyard. So there should really be no one walking through them. It's also our property. There are no trails or any reason for anyone to be back there. I was bringing out folding tables for beer pong and refreshments and setting them up when I heard a cough come from the woods. It was clearly a slow, throat-clearing kind of cough, like someone trying to get something out of their throat, and it was definitely a man. I froze with the table still in my hands. I just stood there listening. The wind was barely moving the leaves, so the sound carried really clearly. It came from just inside the tree line, not deep in the woods, close enough that whoever made it could definitely see me. I slowly set the table down and looked out toward the trees. Confused is one word to use, but unsettled would be a better one. No one should be in those woods, ever. I scanned the tree line and called out, "Who is that?" There was no answer, not even any movement. No footsteps or branches snapping or anything. That almost made it worse. If it was some random guy walking through, I should have heard him moving away. But it was just quiet. I got that feeling in my chest, like I was being watched, like someone was standing perfectly still just behind a tree, staring at me. I stood there for maybe 20 seconds just listening. The longer I stood there, the more uncomfortable I felt. Eventually, I just grabbed the rest of the stuff and brought it back inside for a bit. I didn't want to just stand out there alone anymore. I called my good friend Mark to come over early and help me set up. I decided not to mention the cough. I didn't want to sound paranoid before the party even started. Mark came over around 6 p.m. He brought some drinks and helped me finish setting up. I kept glancing at the woods while we were out there, but everything looked normal. Nothing moved. If someone had been there earlier, they were gone. The rest of my friends started showing up around 7 to 8. At the peak of the party, there were at least 20 people. Nothing insane, but it was a good time. There was music playing, people in the pool, lights around the patio on. With that many people there, the woods didn't feel creepy anymore. A couple times during the night, I caught myself looking toward the tree line though. I don't even know why. I guess that cough just stuck with me. Things started dying down around midnight, and by 1 a.m. the last of the guests had left. I figured I would leave the mess to clean up for tomorrow. I was tired and ready for bed. Before going inside, I did one last slow sweep of the backyard. I walked around the pool, checked behind the pool house, looked toward the woods again. Everything seemed normal. The water in the pool was still, the lights reflected off of it. No one was out there. I locked the back sliding door, and went upstairs to brush my teeth and go to bed. I was in bed scrolling on my phone for maybe half an hour before putting it down. It probably took another half hour of laying there trying to sleep when I heard a splash. Not a small one, not like something falling in. It sounded exactly like someone jumping into the deep end. My eyes opened immediately. I held still, listening. A few seconds later, I heard the sound of someone swimming, literal strokes through the water. My first thought was maybe someone from the party stayed behind as a joke, or they just woke up drunkenly. But I knew everyone who came. No one would do something like that. I checked my phone, and it was 2 a.m. I got out of bed and walked slowly to the window that overlooks the backyard. I didn't turn on any lights in my room. I didn't want whoever was out there to see me before I saw them. When I looked down at the pool, I saw there was a guy swimming calmly from one end to the other. At first, I tried to recognize him. I knew all 20 or so people who came over. This wasn't any of them. I leaned closer to the glass. The pool lights lit up his face just enough for me to know for sure. I had never seen him before. I yelled out the window, "Who is that?" The swimming stopped immediately. He looked up slowly toward my window. Even from that distance, I could tell he wasn't confused or startled. He just stared up at me. Then he started moving toward the shallow end. He climbed out of the pool, and that's when I saw how tall he was. He stood there dripping wet for maybe 2 seconds, just looking toward the house. I expected him to run away. Instead, he started walking toward the sliding door. Not running or hesitating, just walking fast and direct, like he already knew where he was going, almost in a march. I yelled again, "Hey, who is that?" He didn't respond. I heard the sliding door downstairs open. I know I locked it, I'm positive I did, but I heard it slide open. Then it slid shut. I ran to my bedroom door and locked it. That's when I noticed how much my hands were shaking. I grabbed my phone and texted Mark, asking him if he noticed anyone stay behind before leaving, but I didn't wait for a response. I immediately called 911. I whispered into the phone that there was an intruder in my house. I gave my address as quietly as I could. Then I heard the footsteps. They were slow, wet footsteps on hard wood. I could hear the slight stick of his feet lifting off the floor. He wasn't rushing, nor was he searching randomly. He was walking directly toward the stairs. Each step on the stairs creaked, one at a time. He reached the top. The hallway floor outside my room creaked. He stopped right outside my bedroom door. I could hear water dripping onto the floor. Then the handle moved. He tried opening it once, then twice, then a third time, harder each time. When he realized it was locked, there was a long pause. The 911 operator was saying something, but I had the phone set down. I could barely focus on what she was saying. Then the guy knocked on the door, 3 slow knocks. I picked up the phone and put it on speaker. My voice was shaking, but I said loudly that I was on the phone with the police and they were on their way. There was another long pause. Then a man's voice from the other side of the door said, very low and calm, "It's me, open the door." He sounded like a grown man in his 30s. I said, "I know that I don't know you. Leave now." There was silence again. 5 seconds, maybe more. Then I heard him turn and walk away quickly. I heard his wet footsteps go back down the hallway, then down the stairs, and a few seconds later, I heard the front door downstairs open and slam shut. I didn't move until the police arrived. When I finally went downstairs with them, there was a clear trail of water leading from the back door, up the stairs, all the way to the bedroom door. After searching the entire house, that was the only proof that he had ever been there. I texted everyone I invited, asking if they stayed behind or noticed anyone else stay behind. Anyone who was still awake said no. The rest texted back in the morning saying no. It was a complete stranger. And I have a feeling that cough I heard in the woods earlier that day was that man. I don't know how he got the door unlocked. Maybe he slipped in during the party when people were going in and out. As for a motive, I have no idea. I just know that if I didn't wake up when I did, or if I opened that bedroom door, I don't know what he would have done. Slightly different. If Josh was there, he would come over and say what's up. He'd ask what I was training. He'd comment on something I did like he was coaching me, even though I didn't ask. It wasn't offensive, just a little much. I figured he was just one of those guys who treated the gym like a community center. He would DM me gym memes sometimes. Dumb stuff, videos of guys failing lifts or edits of bodybuilders with dramatic music. I'd just react with a laughing emoji and keep it moving. I didn't want to be rude. He seemed like he just wanted a gym friend. Then he messaged me one day saying there was a local festival happening that weekend and we should go. I didn't even know about it. I looked it up and it was one of those town festivals with food trucks, cheap drinks, random vendors, live music, and a crowd that's half families and half people just there to get buzzed in the middle of the day. I hesitated, but I said sure. It sounded like something to do. I figured it would be a quick hangout. If it was awkward, I could leave early. When the day came, I met him there in the afternoon. The first thing I noticed was how different he seemed outside the gym. At the gym, he had that controlled energy. Outside, it was like he had no volume knob. He was loud from the moment I saw him. He came up grinning too hard, slapped me on the shoulder, and started talking like we were reuniting after years apart. Then he started doing these weird voices, like cartoon voices. High-pitched, nasally, and then suddenly deep and scratchy. He'd say normal sentences, but in a voice like he was doing an impression. It didn't fit the situation. It wasn't like we were telling jokes and he was doing characters. He just kept switching voices for no reason, like he couldn't help himself. At first, I laughed because it caught me off guard. It was so random that it was kind of funny, but then it kept going. We got drinks and walked around, and it was like the alcohol flipped something on in him. His jokes got more inappropriate. Not in a clever way, or in a shock value way. He'd point at random people and make comments that you should not say out loud, especially not around families. He kept trying to make me laugh by saying stuff that would get him punched if the wrong person heard it. I found myself doing that tight smile thing, laughing a little bit but also looking around to see if anyone heard. He didn't seem to care at all. He would look right at people while saying things, like he wanted them to react. A couple times I told him to chill, like calm down, and he would laugh and do another voice, like a creepy whisper, saying my name like it was part of the joke. Nolan, in this fake, spooky tone. He did it more than once. It was weird how much he liked saying my name. Still, the festival was busy and loud, and I could tell myself it was just him being socially awkward and trying too hard. Some people have no filter once they start drinking. I didn't want to judge him too harshly off one day. We ended up staying a couple hours. I went home thinking he was strange, but probably harmless. After that, he kept messaging me more. He started sending DMs that were less like memes and more like constant check-ins, asking what I was doing, asking if I was going to the gym later, asking if I wanted to link up again. At first I answered, but then I slowed down. I'm not the type of person who wants to be texting all day with a guy I barely know. He asked me to go out to a bar one weekend and said he invited 2 girls to meet us. That made it feel more normal. Like, okay, we're just going out, there'll be other people, it won't be just the 2 of us. So I agreed. We met at the bar at night. Josh showed up already buzzed, I could tell right away. He had that half-there look in his eyes and the extra confidence. We ordered drinks and about 10 minutes passed, then 20, and no one else showed up. I asked about the girls, and he said they bailed. He said it like it was nothing, like it happened all the time. Meanwhile, he hyped this up almost like it was a double date. I felt like he lied the entire time about the girls just to get me there. That thought landed in my stomach and stayed there. Then the voices started again, even worse this time. He wasn't just doing cartoon voices. He was doing these creepy, exaggerated sounds like fake laughing, fake crying, then switching into a deep voice like a movie villain. He would incorporate these sounds and voices into the conversation we were having, but it was still so weird. He kept doing it right at the table while people around us were trying to have normal conversations. I saw a couple at the bar look over and smirk, not because it was funny, but because it was awkward, like they were watching someone make a fool of themselves. Josh seemed to notice and leaned into it. He got louder. He started telling jokes that didn't even make sense, then laughing at himself too hard. Every time I tried to bring the conversation back to normal, he'd interrupt with another voice, and then he started saying my name again. Nolan. Listen, Nolan. It was like he couldn't talk without anchoring me to him. I felt embarrassed sitting there, not because I cared what the strangers thought, although I did feel like he made me look like a weirdo by association, but because his energy was so off that it made me feel trapped. People were watching, and the bartender looked annoyed, like she thought he was overly drunk and considering kicking him out. Josh kept drinking. He ordered shots and tried to get me to do them. I said no, and he acted like I was betraying him. He made a joke about me being boring. Then he did a voice like a crying baby. I forced a laugh, but inside I wanted to get out of there so bad. I looked at my phone and made the decision I was leaving. I told him I had to go help my brother with something. It was the first excuse that came to mind. Josh stared at me for a second like he didn't believe it. His face changed and he looked genuinely annoyed, like I had just ruined his night. He asked why I couldn't just stay. I repeated that I had to go. He said something under his breath, then did that fake laugh again, but it sounded angry this time. I stood up, said I'd see him at the gym, and left. He didn't even say bye. People looked at me as I left, and I knew it was because we were a spectacle in there because of him. On the drive home, I felt relief. It was like I had been holding my breath for an hour. I told myself that was it. I wasn't hanging out with him again. Gym acquaintances is one thing. This was something else. The next time I went to the gym, I saw him. I tried to avoid eye contact. I stayed on the other side of the gym, hoping he wouldn't notice. Of course he did. He came up behind me while I was re-racking dumbbells and said what's up like nothing happened. He was overly friendly again, like the bar night didn't exist. He asked why I left so early. I shrugged and said I had to help my brother. He asked if my brother was good, and I said yeah. Then he started talking about going out again, like he was already setting up the next time. I kept my answers short. I told him I had a lot going on. He didn't take the hint. He stayed right there talking while I tried to move through my workout. He followed me from one station to another like he was glued to me. Every time I tried to end the conversation, he'd start a new one. It felt like he had decided I was his person now and he wasn't letting go. After that, I started changing my gym time. I'd go earlier or later just to avoid him. Sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. And when I didn't see him, I felt better. But then I'd get messages, more than before. If I didn't open them, he'd send another. If I left him on scene, he'd send messages like, "You good?" I started not opening my Instagram DMs at all. I hated the feeling of seeing his name pop up. It was like a knot in my stomach every time. I thought that if I ignored him long enough, he'd get bored and move on. One night, I was in my room, lying in bed, trying to fall asleep. It was a hot summer night, and my window was cracked. My room is on the first floor, facing the backyard. I heard something outside. It was a low and drawn-out voice, like someone trying to sound spooky on purpose. It said my name. It wasn't loud, but it was right outside, close enough that it felt like it was under my window. Then after that, it was just the sound of the wind, making the abrupt stop even more unsettling. I sat up in bed, listening hard, but I heard nothing else. I got up and went to the window and looked through the blinds. Though I couldn't see anyone, I felt someone's presence out there. I can't explain it. I whispered through the window, asking if it was Josh. I didn't mean to say his name out loud, but it slipped out because that was who it sounded like. When there was no answer, I backed away from the window and grabbed my phone. My first thought was how would he even know where I lived? I hadn't told him my address nor posted it. I went to Instagram and messaged him. I asked if he was outside my house. I stared at the screen after I sent it, feeling stupid, but I needed to know. The messages showed seen a few minutes later. That made it worse. He saw it and didn't answer right away. I watched those little seconds pass like they were hours. Then he replied with one word, "No." That was it. Incredibly fishy why he wouldn't respond something more, at the very least questioning why I asked that. I didn't respond. I put my phone down and tried to forget it. The next day, he messaged me again asking why I was being cold and distant. I didn't answer. I didn't want a conversation. I didn't want to give him anything to latch onto. But that night, I heard it again. This time, it wasn't outside my window. It was in my backyard, farther back, like someone standing near the fence line. It was the same intentionally creepy voice in the same fake tone, like it was meant to scare me. It sounded like Josh doing one of his voices. He said my name again, slow and stretched out. Then it stopped abruptly, as if he noticed movement inside. I got up and walked to the window fast and pulled the blinds aside and stared out. The backyard looked empty. I closed the blinds and locked the door. Even though it was hot, I shut it completely. I turned my fan up to full blast so I wouldn't hear anything else. Then I picked up my phone and messaged Josh again. This time I didn't ask. I told him if he didn't leave and if he ever came back, I would contact the police and get a restraining order. I left it off with calling him a freak. I blocked him right after sending it. I set my phone down and told myself that was the end. I had drawn a line. He would get scared off. That's what normal people do when they get threatened with police. But Josh wasn't normal, clearly. I lay there staring at the ceiling and I couldn't sleep. Even with the fan on full blast, my ears were still searching for sounds outside. A part of me felt this awful curiosity. Like if I didn't check the window, I'd be blindsided. I rolled over and carefully lifted the blinds just a little. Through the small gaps, I saw a figure close to the window. A shadow outline standing still. It was so close that it blocked some of the faint light from outside. I yelled loud right at the window, telling him to get out and never come back. The figure/shadow shifted away from the window and disappeared into the dark. I stood there now shaking, listening for the sound of the gate closing or something, but there was just silence now. After that, I didn't feel safe in my own room anymore. Every sound outside made me think he was back. I stopped going to that gym completely. I didn't want him seeing my routine. I signed up at a different gym across town, even though it was more expensive and further away. I stopped posting on Instagram for a while. I kept my blinds closed at night and I started checking locks obsessively. 3 weeks passed and nothing happened, so I started to relax a little. Then one morning, I walked out to my car and saw my rear tire was flat. I crouched down and saw the cut. It was a clean slice in the sidewall. He slashed my tire. I looked up and down the street like I expected him to be standing there watching me. I didn't confront Josh. He was blocked anyway. I knew confronting him would only feed whatever this was. If he did slash my tire, it meant he was watching me. It meant he wanted a reaction. I didn't want to give him one. I got the tire replaced, and that same day I bought cameras. I installed Ring cameras around the house, front and back. I put motion lights in the backyard. I didn't like spending the money, but I liked the idea of being blind even less. I kept a low profile after that. I stopped going out late, I didn't take the same route home every day, and I'd check the Ring app every time I get a motion notification. The worst part about all of this was knowing a guy I met in the most normal place, a guy I just tried to be friendly to, developed this disturbing obsession with me after hanging out twice. And once someone like that decides you're their friend or you hold any sort of relationship with them, good luck getting them out of your life. So my advice is to be careful who you let into your life at all. I'm Lewis. I'm 22 years old and I live in a small town in Kansas. It's a safe town. I've lived here for almost 14 years. I work at a Mexican restaurant and I've been doing that for 4 years. It's not a bad job. I go to the gym every day with my friend Colton. He's 19. He's your typical redneck kind of guy, but he's chill and a good friend. This happened last summer. Colton had been dating a cheerleader from high school named Addie. She was 17. They met on a dating app and dated for about 4 months. Their relationship was toxic, to say the least. They fought over small things constantly. She didn't even like him going to the gym with me. She wanted him with her all the time. Eventually, Colton found out she had cheated on him with multiple guys. That was the final straw. He broke up with her. She didn't take it well. One Tuesday night, Colton and I were at the gym like usual. We normally go around 7 p.m. because he gets off work at 6. We were drinking our pre-workout and starting our session when the gym door opened and a girl walked in. She was wearing a red hoodie and blue leggings. Right away, something was off. She just stood there for a second staring at us instead of looking around the gym, moving, or looking at her phone. Then she walked towards the women's locker room, but kept looking back at us as she walked. Colton didn't really think much of it, but I did. A few minutes later, we heard noises coming from the women's locker room. It sounded like crying mixed with whispering. It was loud enough that we could hear it through our headphones. It wasn't normal crying. It sounded unstable, like someone talking to themselves while breaking down. We tried to ignore it and kept working out. About 10 minutes later, she came out of the locker room wearing the exact same clothes. That's when it got stranger, because if you go into the locker room, you're usually changing to work out, but she didn't. She just walked out and started moving around the gym without actually using any equipment. She kept drifting closer to us, like too close, hovering near whatever machine we were on, watching us, not even really working out. I told Colton I was getting uncomfortable. We moved to another machine. A few minutes later, she was gone, but we didn't see her leave. We just realized she wasn't there anymore. We finished our workout around 8:40 p.m. and went outside to talk for a bit. I noticed a car sitting in the parking lot with its lights on. That felt weird because only 4 other people were there, and they had come together in one truck. But we brushed it off. About 10 minutes after I got home, Colton texted me asking if I remembered that girl from the gym. I said yeah. He asked what if it was Addie. That idea made my stomach drop. He said she had been acting crazy since the breakup and really wanted him back. I told him there was no way. It was probably just some random girl. Eventually, we both convinced ourselves it wasn't her and went to bed. Around 11:30 p.m., I heard knocking on my brother's window. I went to look outside, but didn't see anyone. A few minutes later, there was knocking on my window. Again, no one was there. Then I heard aggressive knocking at the front door. The doorknob started shaking violently. Not someone checking if it was unlocked, someone trying to get in. Then I heard a girl laughing. Not normal, playful laughter, it was hysterical. Every few seconds, she would start laughing again like she was enjoying herself. I started feeling sick. Then my phone buzzed. A random number texted me saying to leave Colton alone. It said I convinced him to break up with her and that now I would pay the consequences. I knew immediately it was Addie. Another text came in. It was a picture of a knife in her hand. That's when it became real. She wasn't just angry. She was outside my house with a weapon. I texted my dad, who was thankfully still awake. He called the police immediately. The laughter stopped after a few minutes, but I was too scared to move and check. When the cops arrived, they found her sitting in the grass near the house like she had been waiting. They arrested her on the spot. She admitted everything to the officers. They asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. I called Colton and told him what happened. He was just glad I was okay. The only thing I still don't understand is how she got my address. I never gave it to her. Colton swears he didn't either. That part still bothers me, because if she found it once, she could have found it any time. I'm just glad the police got there when they did. I'm 25, and I had been going to the same LA Fitness in my town for a few years. I usually went after work around 6 in the evening. After a while, you start recognizing the regulars, even if you never talk to them. About 6 months ago, I started noticing a guy I hadn't seen before. The first time I really noticed him was during one of my leg days. I was doing squats, and when I finished a set, I looked up at the mirror in front of me and saw him sitting on a chest press machine behind me. He wasn't using it. He was just sitting there leaning forward with his elbows on his knees looking straight ahead. But when I started another set and looked up again, he was still sitting in the same position, now staring in my direction. When our eyes met, he quickly looked away. The next time I saw him was a couple days later. I was doing shoulder presses and noticed him sitting on a lat pull-down machine across the room. Again, he wasn't using it. The weight stack wasn't moving, and he had been sitting there the entire time I was working out. Every time I glanced over, I caught him looking at me before he turned his head away. After that, I started noticing him almost every time I went to the gym. The weirdest part was that I never actually saw him work out. He would just sit on machines or benches but never move the weights. One night, I was doing squats again when I noticed him behind me holding his phone up in front of his chest. It was angled directly toward me. For a second, it looked like he was recording. The moment I turned around and stared at him, he lowered the phone and looked away. That was when I started feeling genuinely uncomfortable. Over the next week, I kept seeing him. Sometimes he'd be sitting near the dumbbells, sometimes on a machine across the room, but no matter where I was in the gym, he always seemed to have a clear view of me. One night, I went to refill my water bottle, and when I turned the corner toward the fountain, he was suddenly standing there only a few feet away. It startled me because I had never seen him that close before. He looked down the moment he realized I noticed him, and he quietly walked past me without saying anything. After that, I decided to change my routine. Instead of going around 6 like I usually did, I started going around 9 at night. The gym is a lot quieter then, and I figured if he had a normal schedule, he probably wouldn't be there. The first night I tried it, I walked in and scanned the room right away. He wasn't there. The same thing happened the next few nights. I thought maybe I had solved the problem. Then one weekend, my friends and I went out to a bar downtown. It was crowded and loud like most places on a Saturday night. And there he was. I turned around while we were standing near the back of the room and saw the guy sitting alone at a small table near the wall. It took me a second to realize it was the same guy from the gym. He was wearing a dark jacket and a baseball hat pulled low over his face. When I noticed him, he was staring directly at me. The second he realized I had seen him, he looked down at his drink. Over the next 20 minutes, I caught him looking at me several more times. Each time he'd quickly look away. Eventually, I leaned toward my friends and said I wanted to go somewhere else. We left and walked a few blocks to another bar. I didn't see him again that night, but the whole thing stayed in my mind. The scariest moment happened 2 weeks later. There's a nature preserve near my house with a long trail I sometimes run during the day. It was a cloudy afternoon when I started my run on the dirt path that leads deeper into the preserve. About 10 minutes in, I noticed someone jogging behind me. At first, it didn't seem unusual, but after a minute, I realized the distance between us wasn't changing at all. He stayed the exact same distance behind me the entire time. I slightly increased my pace, and within seconds, I heard his footsteps speed up too. I sped up again, and he did the same thing. When I glanced back briefly, I saw a man wearing a hat with his head down jogging behind me. His build looked exactly like the guy from the gym. That's when the adrenaline kicked in. I knew there was a small dirt exit path up to a nearby street if you took a sharp left ahead. I started running faster and faster until I was almost sprinting. His footsteps got louder behind me. When I turned onto the narrow dirt path leading up to the street, I heard him break into a full sprint too. I ran as fast as I possibly could. When I reached the street, I started screaming for help. A man who had been standing in his driveway across the road immediately looked over. The second the guy behind me saw someone else, he stopped at the edge of the trail. I turned and saw him hesitate for a moment before turning around and running back into the woods. The man from the driveway came over to check on me while I tried to catch my breath. By the time I looked back toward the trail, the guy was completely gone. I never saw him at the gym again after that day. A few weeks later, I canceled my membership and joined a gym across town. This experience definitely made me a whole lot more paranoid in public settings as far as paying attention to who's watching me.